Hey guys, this is gonna be something a little different than my normal singing videos. Um, this is actually a project for my English class. We had to do an essay, and then instead of our third essay, we get to do a vidcast or a podcast. Mine's a little bit of both. Um, my research topic was, or my research question was, why do people kill and not feel guilty about it? Or not feel remorse. Um, so I came across this question by reading this article that we had in our textbook. It was about these two teenagers who didn't like what one of their previous friends' posts were, so they decided to stab her. And one of the two teenagers said, "Is it bad that I don't feel remorse for the girl?" And then the other one said, "The good part of me wanted her to live, but the bad part of me wanted her to die." So I was just like, I was appalled of as to why people think killing is okay. And these people, these lovely people answered my questions. I interviewed my grandpa, and I also interviewed one of my friends from school. So I hope you guys like this new video that I've posted, and thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get into the video. First off, I just want to say sorry for the lighting. It's kind of dark outside right now, so I don't have a lamp. But first off, I talked to one of my friends. I don't think she wants to be named, so she is going to remain anonymous. But I asked both of them questions. And I asked them both 5 questions, and they were both the same. And my first question was, what are your thoughts on why people kill or harm others and not feel bad about it? And what she said was, I feel like people don't treat others how they wish to be treated. Themselves treat them themselves. This seems like such a simple concept, yet every day we hear about the hate going on in the world. Who knows how the person that is hurting others thinks? I could never imagine doing something awful and not feeling bad about it. I agree. Like that's why I did this whole research project, because I wasn't sure as to why people don't feel bad about it. Alright, so my second question is it mainly psychological, or do you think there's more to it? I would say a lot of today's crime shootings spark from the violence that we see in everyday settings such as video games, books, TV shows, music, magazines, and much more. Not that I think that crime would stop without these things, because it wouldn't. Of course, in some situations, the nature aspect of people comes into play. Mostly, I think that the media mentioned above plays a huge part in the violence of the world. In a way, I agree, but in some ways, I also do disagree. I think it's more, from my research, I think it's more of a how you were raised, or really your mentality. And then my third question was, do you believe our world, or in smaller terms, our country is falling apart? If so, why? I don't believe our country is falling apart. I know that there is room for improvement, for sure. A lot of the things that are said by I'm just gonna say, said by political figures do not need to be said, and sometimes get us into trouble. I do truly believe that the people of our country work together to rebuild and unite after tragedies and bad things happen. I do agree with this, but it seems to be the only time we really unite is when bad things happen. And it shouldn't be like that just when bad things happen. It should be all the time. Yeah, it should be when bad things happen, but not just when bad things happen. That's what's wrong with our country. And I really feel like our country is always putting out negative things, and we need to spread more positivity. And my last question I've asked was, if you could change one thing about our world, what would it be? And she responded with, one thing I would want to change would be for people to be less judgmental towards others. This would solve so many unnecessary issues, and the world would be a happier place to live in. I agree. So many people are just so judgmental, and they don't know what's going on in your life. But we are a little judgmental. All of us are. And that's just the way of life. So I'm going to insert an image and play the interview I recorded with my grandpa. Let's go.
Question.
I'm here with my grandfather, Frank Dickinson, about my research topic of my project.
There's 5 questions.
And yes, there's 5 questions. My first question is, what are your thoughts on why people kill or harm others and not feel bad about it?
Well, I've reviewed that question and have given it some thought, not spending too much time on it, because I do feel that people kill or harm others and they do not feel bad about it or have no conscience is because of poor family upbringing. I think that people who, as they grow up, are influenced by their parents, their brothers and sisters, and friends that they make throughout their growth period. So that's my thoughts as to why people kill or harm others. They're just not raised to appreciate what people have to offer.
All right. And the second question is it mainly psychological, or do you think there's more to it?
Well, I think it is psychological, because people do things as they reflect on what has affected them, and if it's something good that they reflect on, there's a stronger possibility that they will not be harming people. And the opposite is true if they have had bad dealings with other folks or things of that nature. So it depends on their environment as they grow up, affects their psychology.
Okay. And then the third question is, if you could stop the violence in the world, how would you take action, and why not make a difference now?
Well, it'd be difficult to try to stop violence because it seems to be so large and so harsh today. Because when I was raised, which was many years ago, shortly during World War II, in fact, there was enough violence out, of course, because of that war, to where people were in what you might call the survival mode. But most importantly now, the violence in the world today is obviously, in my opinion, a reflection of our environment and people's relationship with one another, whether they're American or international. And how would I make the difference? The only thing I can think of in immediate realm is to enlarge the workforce that prevent the violence.
All right. The fourth question is, do you believe our world, or in smaller terms, our country is falling apart?
And if so, why, you ask, too?
Yes.
Well, if you listen to the news, there's no question that the violence is very active, with mass killings, and relatively new is relatively new in the world and in the USA. So if it were smaller towns, I think still carry a certain high level of family togetherness, love for each other, and love for the country. And yes, there is some forces that are making it to where it is not as safe or as a good place as it once was. That's it.
All right. From news, I feel like it's increasingly getting worse.
You do.
The violence, yes.
Well, I definitely agree with you there. And how do you stop it? I'm sorry if I didn't answer it.
No.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay. And then my last and final question is, if you could change one thing about our world, what would it be?
In my mind, I was raised as a Christian, and that's still a very strong part of my being. And from that background by me, I would like to create more peace and harmony between the nations, and of course between people at first, and then it comes peace and harmony amongst the nations of the world. That's it.
Yeah, a lot of people in our world are rude and nasty. As the new generations come, and just people are losing their sense of humanity.
You said what?
People are losing their sense of humanity, I believe, as
well,
more generations
I
come.
mentioned, yes, good point. And I just will comment on the fact that, truthfully, religion is a very important part from what my studies, and I majored in political science, but in my college days, we studied how we should maintain following the Constitution, and in doing so, I was taught that religion and Christianity is a fundamental part to our Constitution and following the Constitution as we know it today. That's it. Mm-hmm. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys. If you watch this video, sorry if it was boring, but it was really interesting to me, and it was really awesome to get to find out everything that I've learned from this research project, and I am also very thankful that we had to do this instead of another essay, so thank you. Professor Flint, you were awesome. Thank you for the class. It was great. I loved it. And thanks for letting us choose our topics of what we want to write on. Alright guys, see you in my next video.